So here we have the ethical and legal issues. So some of the things that come about from this are some issues which cause consequences through bad practice that is shown. So such as in the background of where ethical and legal issues have come from, there's what happened with Nazis. So things that happened in the war, the way experiments were carried out. So this was completely unethical now if you look back on it, showing the way that they did these experiments. The participants had no consent to do this. They didn't volunteer. This was made to happen on them and they had no choice in the matter. This obviously would now, if these were carried out, lead to legal punishments. However, in this time, there was not a problem with some of these things that happened. There are also some significant studies that have been carried out, such as the Zimbardo and Milgram studies. These both also had ethical issues, which now, looking back on, have changed the way we now have ethical issues. So back when these were done, the studies were done differently, whereas now we've changed it due to how this was. So there are the BASES accreditation, which affects how researchers are able to carry out different things, which obviously increase the ethical issues, which prevent there having to be legal changes, helping the way that research is carried out to still be carried out safely and have all participants involved. So, as I said, the issues that are created could be because of something not being carried out or something being carried out which shouldn't be. So this is kind of the bad practice terms of things. And this then obviously has implications on the way that the research can be used. So if there is an issue which is raised, it can then become an ethical issue and the research cannot be credible and cannot be used as a good source. So you've got the good and bad practice. So depending on age, it is necessary to have consent. Especially, so consent is needed every time when used in a experiment. However, if they're at a young age, they will need parental consent to confirm that they are okay to do it. So even if the participant themselves at a young age says they're happy to do it, they need to have that parental consent, informing them of everything they need to know, what's going to happen to them and everything like that, before they can be carried out in the study. So there's also things like professional conduct and the way the researchers appear. So you don't want to have a stereotypical bad appearance if you're carrying out some really important research which needs to be carried out in a professional and well-conducted way. So we've also got ethical and legal requirements and the consequences. So one of the ethical and legal requirements is to have the right to withdraw. So the participant needs to know that if at any point they do not like the experiment, don't want to be part of it, they want to erase the data that's been collected about them, or if after the experiment they have agreed to being part of the study, they then have the right still later on to remove this information. There's a few other things that are included. So the health and safety aspects, they need to be aware of what's going to be in place, how dangerous it could be, so the risk to benefit. So is there going to be more risk than the benefit of the study is going to find? And also there needs to be a disclaimer. So if there is a risk of the participant, they need to know that they are signing themselves to be in it, and that is their own agreement to be part of. So another legal requirement could be the fact that they're BASES accredited. So many researchers are, which allows them to publish in journals which will then be highly regarded as well as having a good reputation. So then moving on, some of the consequences. So if some of these things aren't carried out well, so then maybe they're not given the right to withdraw, this could then lead to the researcher getting suspended from their levels, or being given fines. As well for the health and safety aspect, if this is not carried out, they then may get the participants themselves may become physically harmed or possibly mentally. And like I said earlier, if they lose their BASES accreditation, that really will affect them and their research credibility will be lowered. So here we are, first scenario. So a researcher is conducting research to see if young female gymnasts are able to tumble better with a male or female coach. Participants have had a consent from parents to take part in the experiment and know they can stop if they wish and the results removed. So this shows here that they've got the right to withdraw because they know if they want to stop and wish to, the results can be removed. So that gives them that peace of mind knowing that if they don't want to carry on, they can. The background check. So this shows that possibly the coaches, so this male or female coach, maybe they do not have a suitable CRB check to be working with young children, or they have so they may have had their BASES accreditation taken away before if they did research before. So this is all things that would need to be looked into. So this would be bad practice, not looking into these things. Because it then shows that not every aspect has been looked at. So consent, it says here that the participants have had consent from parents, so this is crucial because they're at such a young age. Even if they agree, they need to have their parents' consent or guardian. So the professional conduct will be shown in this. So the participants would be looked after and supervised by the researcher, and the male and female coach would carry out professional conduct, making sure they stayed in a professional manner whilst helping with the tumble. So the tumble is quite a full-on movement which needs a lot of support, and there needs to be a relationship between the coach and the gymnast where they both understand what's happening. So in this second scenario, a researcher is going to all gymnastic competitions in the local area and watching to see if height affects how well they scored after performing on the beam. So this here is a example of bad practice of gaining consent from participants. So due to the fact they're going to competitions in the local area and watching, so this shows that they haven't asked if they can. They are going to a competition as if they are just watching, and they're collecting data which the participants themselves probably have no idea about. This can then cause harm to the participants if they later find out, or if this data gets published, it can then harm them in later life. So it is really key that they start to volunteer. So maybe the researcher could have said that he's going to go to all the competitions, but gains consent from every gymnastic centre, and they all have consent to be part of this research and they volunteer to do this. So this is an example of quantitative data because it's showing the quantities of the height and how well they've scored on the beam. So this is not a factual, this is statistical, so it really shows actually if they have or have not improved. Scenario 3 then. So a researcher is conducting an experimental study where participants are studied and recorded by a number reference. With all details password protected, gymnasts were either given a placebo or real drug to see if affected their heart rate during their floor routine. So this here is showing deception. So the fact that they were given a placebo or the real drug, they would have all been told they would be given the real drug. So this deceives the participants with the placebo, making them think that this is going to affect them and make them better, or possibly been told that it will make them worse. And this will then mentally possibly harm them in the future. as well as possible physical, if the drugs affect their body and the way they act. However, there is good practice shown because the experiment that is conducted, everyone is recorded by a number reference, so this means that their names and phone numbers are not included, and also that all the details are password protected. So this goes with the data protection law, making sure that all participants' data is either password protected or locked up in a filing cabinet. So another thing is how during the floor routine there's going to be effect on heart rate. So heart rate is a serious thing that if this drug affects them too much and their heart rate goes too high, could really affect them. So this is a big health and safety issue. However, if the researcher is competent in what he's doing and is able to carry this out well, there shouldn't be no problems. So here's scenario 4. A group of ex-Olympic gymnasts have volunteered to take part of a study to see the effectiveness of PNF flexibility training to be able to get back into gymnastics. After at least 3 years out of training, after the researcher has explained what is happening in these sessions, the volunteers know how to help one another. The researcher leaves the room to prepare for another study he is carrying out. So this here shows how there's people who are competent in what they're doing and are given the basic training of what they need to do. However, it shows that as he is leaving to prepare another study, there is no supervision over these athletes. And this means that there could be danger to them, and it's also not looking after them how you should be as a researcher. As these athletes have only just learned about this PNF training, it makes it very difficult because they aren't very knowledgeable. So this is where this physical harm is going to come in, which really could affect them. So by having a health and medical screening questionnaire at the beginning, this could possibly help, as the researcher would then know if they're okay to take part in this PNF stretching and if this is going to affect them. One other thing would be how they have volunteered. So it shows that they are willing to take part and they have been told what they're going to be doing as well. And that explains why it is much better to have them as a volunteer, because you then know that they have volunteered to take part, so they want to take part. And then at least it's their choice on what they're doing.